Thank you, Chetan. Let's move right along to our first panel now, which is all about NextGen banking in the GCC. And can I call up on stage to introduce his panel, our partner V. Ramkumar.
Thank you, Robin. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ram. I am a senior partner at Cedar. It's a pleasure and privilege to be inviting some very eminent panelists today. We have with us our first panelist, the Acting Group Chief Technology Officer of First Abu Dhabi Bank, Mr. Sampath Srinivasan. Please put your hands together. Welcome, Sampath. We also have with us, there was an interesting comment that Chetan talked about of new age digital banks. We have with us the Chief Commercial Officer of one such very interesting bank, Mr. Prateek Vahie, CCO, VO Bank. Welcome, Prateek. May I also invite the Regional Director for SEMIA Backbase, Ali Nanji. Ali. I would like to also invite my fourth panelist for the day, the Managing Director for Universal Banking, Middle East Africa of Finastra, Mr. Rudy Kawmi. Rudy. So thank you again, panelists, to set the tone for the day. And I think the discussion becomes even more interesting after that barrage of data points that Chetan just threw at us. We will probably try to decipher some of that with little more prose. And I probably will start the panel with a question to you, Sampath. I think this phrase that is being used increasingly these days is about the increasing digital world. Now, if I may ask you, how do you describe that phrase, increasingly digital world? What does that mean to you and what does it mean to banks? But more importantly, may I also ask you, what will it take for banks to stay ahead of that increasingly digital world curve? Floor is yours.
Morning, Ram, and happy morning. Pleasure to be part of the panel. And I need to be careful sitting next to a digital bank, yeah? So I think, the digital world, I think, is evolving. We have been talking about this for many years now. And on a day-to-day basis, it's an evolving process. Today when we talk about, the statistics which shared by Chetan clearly shows that the adoption of the digital services by the customers is on an increasing basis, right? Especially post the COVID era, more and more customers are looking at, doing majority of the services only through digital channels, right? If we see today, when we talk about digital channels, I think most of them expect it to be available only on the mobile. Nobody touches anything on the web. I think majority of them use services on the mobile, and they expect more and more services to be available only in the mobile banking because people do not, desire to come into a physical branch to do any sort of a services now. It keeps evolving. We keep adding more and more services and features on a daily basis into the digital channels. And keeping customer experience as a focus is the most important thing. We keep looking at what is the feedback from the customers and what they're expecting. It's not that you deliver one service and then you look at now, forget about it and start looking at new service. How do we keep improving that existing services? What customer expect is that how can it be more simple? How can it be more flexible, and how the minimum number of clicks I can do in order to get that service to be done. And this is a constant challenge. For example, if you are running a platform as a large bank like us, it's not like a newly formed digital bank where they can quickly adapt to the new ways of navigations or new ways of offering services. So you need to be continuously on your toes to make sure that you match with the players coming in the market and ensure that the customer experience and customer expectations are constantly being met. This is what I think, it will keep coming. We need to be open. We need to be open to feedback. We need to open to change. I think we have a sort of a good strategy team in place within the organization to look at it. And when we talk about digital, it's not talking about the services as a bank we are offering now. You need to be open to connect to the ecosystem. Now you need to have a face recognition where you need to connect to an external party to get that done. You need to, for a KYC probably, you need to connect to an external ecosystem. And we talk about the, instant payment platform, which means you need to be open to connect to the, the payment ecosystem within the country. So your digital platform and digital offering should be open enough in order to connect to the ecosystem which keeps evolving on a daily basis. Tomorrow open finance will come, we'll talk about digital currency, and central bank itself is mandating the, the instant payment platform to be available in their app and also in your app, which means that you need to be, able to offer those services and wherever you can go and get plugged into it. So it's, as I said in the beginning, it's a continuous evolving process of looking at digital, and more what is happening is that we discussed about it earlier. Now digital doesn't stop only at the front end now. We're looking at the end-to-end process of up to the entire life of the transaction is fulfilled. So that there is no other touch point within an organization to look at a service or a transaction. So that is what is actually more and more happening, that everything is seamless across and goes straight to processing without any sort of, and the time taken to process and respond to the customers with the digital services is very key critical. Because customer want to be quick, customer wants it to be transparent, and they needed the feedback immediately. So I think, as I said, we'll keep talking about it, it will be growing, but we need to be constantly watching on what we want to do, how we keep impressing your customers and make sure that they are sticky into the services that you're offering to the channels.
Very interesting, Sampath. So I guess one is that it's evolving every day, and I just picking some key words from where you talked about customer experience, innovation-driven customer experience. You're talking about not doing new things, but doing what you already do in an innovative manner. You talked about ecosystems, and I'm going to take some of these to you, Prateek. So if I was to, from a digital bank standpoint, right, and if I was to look at innovation-driven customer acquisition and customer experience, what does that really mean? And more importantly, Sampath also spoke about being open to collaboration. And where does the fintech collaboration play, and what role does it play here, and what do you think it is expected to play in future as well?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I think Sampath raised some very, very valuable points, and that kind of obviously spans into the whole innovation and acquisition drive, right? So if I were to kind of just kind of put a framework to maybe to what Sampath also alluded to is, I'd kind of break that down into 3 points. One is onboarding experience, then the offers, and then operational efficiencies. So I think innovation needs to span across all these 3 O's, so to speak, to kind of really drive a better acquisition and experience for customers. So if I just go through some of the 3 points in what we've done at VO, from an onboarding experience, we've really kind of shortened that experience for customers, right? So from our SME product that we have, customers can complete an application in 5 minutes, right? And that's because we've integrated really well with the ecosystem, right? We've integrated with the licensing authorities, we've integrated with the immigration authorities, we're able to validate documents and the screening of customers much faster than most other banks. We build algos at the back end to identify companies as high risk, low risk. So the whole onboarding experience is much faster. On the personal banking side, we're able to onboard customers in a minute and a half. Right? So it's pretty much instant. The card is issued instantly, and customers can start transacting in less than 2 minutes. Right? So that we've really kind of changed the game and upped the game over there. And at the back of that, I think the entire design element of it has really helped us differentiate to what the traditional banks offer. I think a lot of times the banks here underestimate the impact design has to success. And at VO, design is at the heart of our entire innovation. So we have a lot of emphasis on customer and a lot of emphasis on design. So the entire onboarding experience then kind of becomes absolutely critical, and that's our biggest USP today in the market. On the offer side, right, again, Sampath alluded to the entire ecosystem. So at VO, we've kind of built a very strong ecosystem, a very strong platform that allows collaborations, right? Which is central to the growth of our entire digital platform. For example, we've integrated with Stripe, right? So with one click, customers can get onboarded onto Stripe. We've got API connections with Stripe, all KYC information flows. In 20 minutes, Stripe connects with the customer, customers onboarded onto Stripe. We've integrated with Zoho, right? We've got invoicing capabilities in our SME app. The smaller micro SMEs have challenges in raising invoices, having a finance guy in the office. Within the VO app, he can raise an invoice, attach a payment link if he subscribes to Stripe, and send that invoice across to their customers to receive payments. So, in 20 minutes, he can get onboarded onto with invoicing and with Stripe. We have integrations with Wise, right? So through Wise, we can reach 130 different countries. We also have Swift, but depending on the transaction, the transaction is then moved either to Swift or to Wise to kind of help the customer. So we've really built out this entire platform to kind of support that ecosystem, and we'll continue to grow that platform. So the offers is, again, the innovation comes in a way that you have to have an open banking kind of a platform. And the last one is operational efficiency, right? So at Vio, we are onboarding 24/7, right? We are onboarding holidays, no holidays, 3 in the morning, because a lot of our processes are STP today, right? On the personal side, almost 100% of our onboarding is STP. We've got, unlike other banks that are closed on a Sunday or a Friday or whatever it is, we are onboarding every single minute. In fact, there was some stat, we're onboarding, I think, 10 customers per minute or something on the personal side. So we are really accelerated on the entire, on the operational efficiency side, right? And the integrations, the algos that we have in terms of the screening, the monitoring, all of that is really helping us to kind of differentiate, and that's driving the acquisition in a big way.
24/7. That's 24/7 acquisition, yeah?
Exactly.
3 in the morning acquisition, that's quite fascinating. I actually pick a few, themes from what you just talked about, Prateek. I mean, just the 2 words that stood out was that experience is actually about being seamless, and the experience is actually about being personalized. I want to take these 2, themes to Ali, right? And I want to take this, if we were to talk about exceeding expectations, and the expectations are set on these 2 themes that Prateek talked about, one being seamless, and second being what you call as personalized, right? So what, in your view, does it take to actually deliver on that quote-unquote customer delight in delivering that experience?
Good morning, and thank you for having me, first of all. I think at Backbase we're in a unique position because we have the pleasure of working both with neobanks such as Vio and existing banks such as FAB. What we notice is when it comes to the seamlessness and the customer experience, we need to kind of identify where the disproportion comes into play. And what we've seen is normally, if you look at it from the perspective of, regardless of whether you're talking about corporate, retail, or wealth, if you can support a customer on the onboarding, if you can support a customer on the borrowing, if you can support a customer with their financial well-being, and if you can support the customer on how they deal with transactions and payments, and then finally conflict resolution. If you get these 5 things, generally speaking, correct, it has a disproportionate impact on the overarching customer satisfaction metric, which then obviously has a disproportionate impact on other metrics of relevance and performance for the bank. When it comes to the seamlessness aspect of the piece, and I think Prateek mentioned it in his answer as well, is many banks make common mistakes. They either focus too much on the customer side, only kind of developing an application, a front-end layer, keeping the focus predominantly on UI UX, and not looking too much at the back office side. Or the complete opposite. They focus too much on the back office side, and therefore the incremental impact on the customer side is not that nuanced or relevant. And so obviously you need to kind of look at it end to end. However, the interesting element of this is the how, right? And particularly in the case of incumbent banks, which have large legacy debt, they have got large IT systems that have been implemented and customized over years. How do you look at the approach of being able to take that front to back and back to front transformation? And what we've seen generally working is this concept of journey-led transformation. So we take a look at which of your journeys are the most fruitful and beneficial to you. And based on these components, we come up with an approach whereby we take you journey by journey. And this has a lot of advantages, but one of the key ones is it allows you to decouple the journey from your legacy. Kind of allows you to take a closer look at your spaghetti architecture in the back end and see what can be lifted and shifted. At the end of the day, I like comparing customer experience similar to what my nephew would want. My nephew is 15 years old. He does everything on an app, right? He wants his car now, he wants his delivery now, he wants everything to be done seamlessly, quickly, with as minimum clicks as possible. Frankly speaking, he's young, but he also doesn't care what happens in the back end. It's not his problem. He wants the end result. And therefore, banking, as Sandeep and Prateek were mentioning, is ecosystem driven for that very simple reason. We've realized as the financial services industry that we can no longer just offer one product, one service. It needs to link into the wider ecosystem. And at Backbase, we've already done that. So our platforms seamlessly link with other fintech providers as well. We also have a good cooperation with Finastra. So it's interesting to see because, us as fintechs have established in a cooperative manner an ecosystem that is ready to be able to provide banks with solutions not only to their problems, but also to the problems of the customer.
Journey by journey, that's the essence of what you just explained, right? We're talking about, Rudy, and if I was to come back to the theme of today's panel, right? We're talking about next-gen banking, and one area that is emerging as a very interesting area is embedded finance, right? And I think one of the areas that we also are seeing likely to make an impact. I don't know, I'm very keen to hear your thoughts on how do you see that particularly playing or unfolding in the region and what impact you foresee that to have here.
Yeah, good morning everybody. So embedded finance is really interesting, and it's interesting to Finastra because we play across a lot of key areas within retail banking, treasury, lending, payments. And what is embedded banking really? It's the spread of traditional banking products into new domains and often non-financial institutions and providers, right? So more and more we're seeing that that's happening, and the reason it's happening is that it makes sense to have financial services and transactions that are in context, right? They're in context to the moment of the user, their need at that time, and the specifics of what they're doing. And Chetan's slide, I think, was really illustrative of this. We saw a lot of those players are live and active in the GCC. And the examples I think we're all familiar with is in the buy now, pay later space, right? Everyone's online, e-commerce, shopping, you reach that checkout point. You're not dealing with a financial institution, but you're presented with a financial product, right? You can spread your payments over 3 months for nothing, for longer with some interest. And it's completely tailored to that moment. It's in context. I'm buying this TV. This is the amount that I need, and these are the services that I can render. So that's a movement of those traditional financial products, embedding them in the context as the customer uses them. And I think it's not just retail. We always talk about retail. I think in the SME space, you can imagine how SMEs are using accounting software, and those providers can start moving in, with invoice discounting, payroll services, because they have the data, they have the relationship, and they have the context to offer those services. So I think for customers, it's great. It's better personalization, it's better service. I think for financial institutions, for fintechs, it's an opportunity. And I think the gentlemen have all touched upon the importance of an ecosystem. And that's what we really believe, right? We've got to deliver platforms that are open so that you can engage, consume, and contribute to these ecosystems. And you have to be able to do it in a way that is timely. Because if you're going to seize on these opportunities, if you're going to play in these ecosystems, because they're going to happen whether you do or you don't, you need to be able to adapt and to get involved. And that's where I think technology as well as the culture of the organization plays a big part.
You may not realize, but you are banking even without talking to a bank, right?
Absolutely.
And I think the example of ERP and Zoho that he talked about, Prateek, was, again, resonating there. We talked about some very interesting use cases that, we've, over the last 15, 20 minutes. I will open up for questions to the audience, but before I did that, I have one question and the same question to all four of you. And I'll probably start with you, Sampath. The theme of this topic here is next-gen banking in the GCC, and if you had to do a crystal gazing and tell us what is that one use case or one innovation that you foresee or you already are seeing that is likely to create the biggest impact from your own view here?
See, from a digital channels perspective, if we talk about next-gen banking, I think how do you meet the expectations of the youth population, which is more and more coming into your banking services, right? When we are bank like us, we need to look at all the segment of customers who are banking with us. Our digital is not focused only on one particular segment. We are looking at all the segments. So what we can do differently in order to offer those, attractive services, either connecting to, for example, to booking a movie ticket or buying a food, because we have so much of, everything is done online today, starting from ordering for your food or, probably, booking for your massage or anything is being. So how do we start looking at offering some of the services which is outside your normal banking services, which will, because today we are talking about a country where the very limited population and probably most of those customers who are using digital channels are customers of multiple banks or multiple digital banks in the country, right? And they keep benchmarking you against what is services are being offered by others, right? I think that's where I think the next gen will keep looking at what sort of additional value-added services other than your traditional banking products. Though initially, he talked about in 200 years, banking evolved only in the first 15 to 20 years, right? So I think that's where I think we need to watch in the next 6 months to 12 months. What's that you can offer and service which is outside your normal banking products, which keeps this next gen keep coming.
Fascinating. From digital messages to digital massages. Yeah. All right. Prateek, same question to you. What's the one use case innovation that you foresee or already seeing that could have the maximum impact from your own personal view?
So I think I have two, and I slightly disagree with what Sampath is saying. One is obviously Gen AI. I think that's the next big thing, and that will truly disrupt banking. I think the faster banks start adopting Gen AI, the better it is for consumers. So I think that's going to be big in terms of disruption in the future, and the entire experience to banking. Right. With that, I think there'll be a lot more innovation that can come across. I think the other thing is moving away from product pipeline to platform. So I think this whole idea of adding more services and the super app and all is all, I think it's all gone, right? Everyone's seen how successful super apps have been. So I think the future is going to be a platform play, and maybe to draw examples would be Netflix versus, let's say, a Prime, Amazon Prime, right? I think in the future, Amazon has a much better advantage over there. They could possibly combine the e-com platform with their content platform, right? And start selling on the content platform. And I think that's going to be the future in terms of people leveraging platforms rather than products. So that's my 2 cents.
Gen AI and platform. I mean, that's interesting. Ali?
Well, I think a lot of them were already mentioned, but I think I would also kind of look at the fundamentals, which is data and trust. And again, Gen AI, a platform ecosystem play, all of the very relevant points mentioned will not work without the relevant data being out of silo and without the trust factor being there. And if you look at it historically, yes, we heard earlier today, banking only changed in the last 15 to 20 years. But the reason why banking remained is because people could trust that their money is safe at a bank. And that trust now falls towards data with the increase in cyber attacks, hacks, malicious uses of AI, so on and so forth. It is more paramount than ever to ensure that your data is in the most relevant place so it can be used by next-gen technology like AI, and also that it is protected. And I think going cloud native has definitely supported in that. The regulatory landscape of the UAE and the GCC is definitely supporting in that manner as well. But I think fundamentally, as banks look towards that progression, they need to also fundamentally think and rethink how they're using data and trust in order to establish the customer experience design.
How data is going to be used and the trust that goes with it is what you see as the most impactful theme. Rudy.
Thank you. Hello, can you hear?
No.
Thanks. Hello? No. So thanks. This is a great question to answer last after all the good ideas are put forward. So I think I'll cheat a little bit. And
You just talked about trust and you want to cheat?
I'm going to combine two things. So open banking and Gen AI. And the reason I'm thinking this way is that we've all seen how open banking is developed across the GCC and in other markets, right? And you can't help but couple that technology with the potential that we can see with Gen AI to create a financial advisor in the future, where you download this app, this financial advisor app, and thanks to open banking, you can give it access to your entire financial world, whether you bank with Rio and 5 other banks, and consolidate that information. So that now you have the power of that AI, but other than the general knowledge it has on products and services everywhere, it also has an intimate knowledge of your financial situation. And it could be providing you with advice to say, hey, you could get a better term deposit with Wio. They're offering a better rate than what you're getting at Bank XYZ. Why don't we look at opening a service there? Or, hey, you could consolidate some of your liabilities into a loan, a consolidated loan, and bring down some of your interest payments. I mean, that's real, tailored, specific financial advice that is going to tap into this whole ecosystem, everything that we've been talked about, and could really be a game changer for people and their financial futures.
Interesting. So from intelligent advice to artificial intelligence driven advice, right? So I guess that's interesting. So I'll do open up for questions here from the audience. We have time for a couple of questions. Yes, Banu. Can someone pass the mic?
Hello. Hi. My question is for Prateek. You spoke about a number of accounts being sourced per minute. It's in fact very, very encouraging to see the way the digital market is progressing. I have two parts to my question. Part A, what is an acceptable percentage of performance in the overall portfolio? And question B, what digital or non-digital measures would you take to retain that performing portfolio?
So your first question on performance, I would assume the KPI could be funding, active, that kind of, is that your definition of performance?
Yeah, overall quality of the account in terms of performance, in terms of stickiness, everything, all parameters.
I think the number one criteria for us is NPS, right? That comes above everything else for us. We value customer NPS as the number one driver for the bank. You have a high NPS, you will succeed. You have a low NPS, you will fail. So at the end of the day, whatever we do is to drive the NPS score, right? So, and engagement obviously drives then NPS. So in terms of performance, customer engagement, whether it be number of logins in a day, number of products the customer uses, balance he has, services the customer uses. So I think the whole engagement aspect of it is our key driver. And for us, at least having an 80% of our portfolio being active, from an engagement point of view is a acceptable metric. And then that kind of but more importantly is the NPS score is what we look at.
Okay. Thanks, Prateek.
Interesting. When there is performance, there is NPS, and there is non-performance is NPAs, yeah? All right. One last question. Yes, gentleman there.
So Prateek has it easy because he has a brand new digital bank to work with. So, but Sampath, what would be the way in which a traditional bank, okay, competes with the new challenges and the new opportunities which are coming up? How does somebody look at tech from that point of view and then go after the viewers or compete with the viewers of the world?
Yeah, I think as I said in the beginning, from a tech perspective, definitely we carry a lot of legacy, so we keep modernizing the platform. We become more open in terms of how we are able to connect to the ecosystem quickly. Also leverage some of the fintech partners in terms of accelerating the journey that we are going through, either offering a sort of a personalized experience to a customer or giving a new service to a customer. As I talked about, when you are onboarding a customer, about your face recognition or a KYC validation, everything. So what we make is the pace in which the digital banks are, offering those services might not be similar to what we are offering, but we are, of course, reaching in the space in which we open up the architecture, open up the ecosystem so that we are able to leverage the partners in the ecosystem and also try to, catch up and accelerate the services that's being offered. So the legacy platforms are being open, modernized, architecture is becoming much more open, especially, as most of us now start embracing cloud on a big way, so which also helps us to accelerate and use some of the services already available in the cloud. So that's the way I think we are progressing towards being in par with some of the banks which are emerging. Yeah.
I see Chetan's hand has gone up there. Yes, Chetan.
Thanks. My question is for Ali. Ali, you've seen Backbase coming long way from new generation experience. So if you have to give an advice to fintechs on what they should do to support the great journey which is in front of us, what would the one advice be?
I think sorry, thanks.
The trusted mic.
The trusted mic, yeah. No, I got it, thank you. So I think my recommendation would be, and fintechs, when they start off, I believe, try to solve too much in the first instance. So my personal recommendation, and this is exactly how Backbase started as well, is we tried to solve one customer problem brilliantly, as opposed to trying to attack the entire ecosystem. We started on the retail side, and then eventually we grew on the corporate and on the wealth side. And I believe fundamentally with all of the trends that are happening around open banking, ecosystems, embedded banking, so on and so forth, fintechs like coming in big bang and saying, hey, we're the next great thing that can solve all of this, right? So personally, in order to get that right, I would say focus on your core customer problem, fix that, be really good at that before you move on to anything else.
Thank you. I guess the panelists would be available at the next coffee break for you to ask any other questions. I will have to draw the curtains, but wonderful discussion. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fellow
Thank you,
panelists.
Ram. Thanks very much. Thanks, Ram.